Hi everyone and welcome to this week's Monday Memo. Now I'd love to share with you one of my favorite parables, conundrums or sort of economic principles that comes in the form of a story, and it reminds me of sometimes how we actually, the way I look at it is sometimes we actually have to break some windows to help the business add value, and sometimes breaking windows is either a good thing or a bad thing. So anyway, as the story goes, it's by a French economist called Frederic Bastiat. And in Bastiat's tale, a shopkeeper's son breaks a glass pane on one of his shop's windows, meaning the shopkeeper will have to pay to replace it. Now, as the onlookers arrive, they start to discuss and consider the situation, and amongst themselves, they decide that the boy has actually done the community a service because his father will have to pay for a glazier to come and replace the broken pane. The glazier then will presumably spend the extra money on something else. Let's say he buys a dinner for his partner at their favourite restaurant, which employs again local staff and whose restaurateurs then buys his produce from local suppliers and farmers and so on and so on. In effect, creating a positive snowball effect for the local economy. Now, Bastiat points out on further analysis, it exposes the onlookers to a fallacy of the broken window because, let's say for the instance, the man's son, by breaking the windows, reduced his father's, the shopkeeper's disposable income, meaning his father will not be able to purchase new inventory for his shop, upgrade a display, or even fork out for a nice treat for himself, like a pair of shoes. So whilst the broken window might help a glazier, it is at the same time robbing other industries and reduces the amount being spent on other goods. So in economic terms, it's only the purchase of truly new goods that stimulates economic production, and so replacing something that's already been purchased is regarded as a maintenance cost and doesn't create incremental value in an economic sense. So the broken window fallacy demonstrates the faulty conclusions of the onlookers by only taking into consideration the shopkeeper with the broken window and the glazier who must replace it. The crowd forgets about the decision-making impacts on other stakeholders because they're only looking at the parties directly involved in the short term, rather than looking at all the stakeholders directly and indirectly involved in the short and long term. And this is where finance professionals can play a key role in value creation for our organisations. Not in the literal sense by ensuring that windows aren't being broken, but in a figurative sense, by leveraging our broad visibility across our organisations, our access to decision makers, to information, our ability to translate various outcomes into those financial outcomes that are most sustainably value producing and creating for our organisations. And some of us, particularly near the front lines, actually go and help implement those via appropriate compliance controls and advice to stakeholders in our organisations. Now, I've encountered this many times in conversations with sales leaders who want to, say, book deals with large revenues but with low margins, so perhaps not the most valuable in the longer run. As these investments, they use the words, are strategically important accounts, either to land and expand or even to displace competitors in those accounts. So such investments need to be understood on a positive NPV basis compared then in value terms with others that are forgone and an expected return in the long run. So the final decision is made not in isolation but with respect to other value creating investments that are known out there. So for myself and others of us to do our jobs properly, we need to have a good appreciation of all the other options out there. And sometimes breaking windows in this sense generally isn't a good thing, but sometimes sales actually do get it right. Sometimes we actually have to go and in effect break a window because there is another side to this parable in that, let's say the shopkeeper in our example kept his window beyond the point where it would maximize profit because he was perhaps slow to make the necessary investment. And the misfortune of the broken window means that he's now forced to consider to invest in new technology, maybe a better window display and maybe lighting that he wouldn't have done previously without the broken window, thus increasing the comparative profit over time. Or you could also look at it as reducing the comparative loss relative to a fortunate shopkeeper who didn't have their shop window broken. So here, finance professionals may be asked to appreciate both sides of the argument, And that's where our independence and integrity comes in, and figure out whether the sales teams are being accurate in their assessment of value creation, or guilty of succumbing to the broken window fallacy. And this, of course, gets easier with experience, which is why we invite finance guest mentors onto our Strength in the Numbers show, who share with you their stories and hard-won lessons they've experienced when looking to help create value in their organizations, that they've worked through and worked for them, or perhaps hasn't worked out as well as they expected. And they even break down those stories so that you can benefit by putting these into practice via steps or baby steps or things you can go do to help your business, clients and other departments create more value for their organizations and it'll work for them. So look, hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please let your friends and colleagues know about it. We're on all the major platforms: iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud and YouTube. And also feel free to subscribe as well to our channel so you're on top of all the latest guest mentor interviews and Monday memos. So until next time, take care of yourselves and let's keep on building our strength in the numbers.